Imagine this for a moment. You finally start doing the responsible thing with your money. Every month you move a little into savings. Nothing dramatic, just consistency. A few $100s here, a few thousand sitting safely in the bank. It feels stable, responsible, even a little comforting. Your money is growing, slowly but surely. At least that's what it looks like. Now here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. If your savings account earns 1% interest, it will take 72 years for your money to double. 72 years. That means if you save $10,000 today, it wouldn't become $20,000 until the year 2098. Think about that for a second. Most people won't even be alive long enough to see their money double. And while your savings sit there inching forward, something else is happening in the background. Prices are rising. Groceries, rent, healthcare, insurance. Quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. If inflation averages 3%, your purchasing power is actually shrinking every year. So while it feels like your money is growing, it's actually losing ground. Silently, quietly, almost without you noticing. Your money isn't standing still. It's slowly moving backward. And the strange part is that most people never realize this is happening. They just keep saving, assuming time will eventually solve the problem. But time doesn't fix slow growth. In fact, time magnifies it, which raises an uncomfortable question. If traditional saving takes 72 years to double your money, how do some people seem to double their wealth every decade? To understand that, we have to step back and look at the deeper problem most people never see. Hey, I'm Brian. I spend way too much time thinking about how money grows, and more importantly, why it doesn't. Because the strange thing about personal finance is that most people are actually doing the right things. They work hard, they save, they try to be responsible, and yet, decades later, many of them still feel like their money never really took off. Why? Because the real problem isn't effort. It's velocity. Most people are saving money in places where it barely moves. And when money barely moves, time becomes your enemy. Here's a simple way to picture it. Imagine trying to walk up a down escalator. You're moving forward, step by step, but the escalator is slowly carrying you backward at the same time. So you walk and walk and walk, but you never get very far. That's what happens when your money grows slower than inflation. You feel like you're making progress, but the system is quietly pushing against you. And the truly dangerous part? This process compounds silently over time. The difference between 1% growth and 8% growth doesn't feel dramatic in a single year. But stretch that difference over 30 or 40 years, and the gap becomes enormous. Two people can save similar amounts of money. They can work equally hard. They can even make similar salaries. And yet one ends up with hundreds of thousands more than the other. Not because they worked harder, but because their money grew faster. This is the part of wealth building that most schools never teach. Because money doesn't just grow, it grows at a rate. And once you learn how to measure that rate, something interesting happens. You start seeing a hidden pattern behind every investment decision you make. A simple shortcut that investors have used for decades to understand how fast their money can actually grow. It's called the Rule of 72. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing your financial future in an entirely different way. This is where things start to get interesting. Because once you understand how money actually grows, you stop thinking about dollars, and you start thinking about doubling cycles. Investors have a simple shortcut for this. It's called the Rule of 72. And the rule itself is incredibly simple. You take the number 72, divide it by your annual return, and the result tells you how many years it takes for your money to double. That's it. No complex formulas. No spreadsheets required. Just one number that reveals how fast your wealth can grow. Let's see what that looks like in real life. If your money grows at 1% per year, like many savings accounts, you divide 72 by 1. Your money doubles in 72 years. If it grows at 3%, which might be a conservative bond return, you divide 72 by 3. Now your money doubles in 24 years. Already that's 3 times faster. But watch what happens as the rate increases. At 6%, your money doubles in 12 years. At 8%, it doubles in 9 years. And at 10%, which is close to the long-term historical return of the stock market, your money doubles in about 7.2 years. Think about that for a moment. At 1%, your money doubles in 72 years. At 10%, it doubles in just over 7 years. That's a tenfold difference in speed. And this is the key insight most people miss. Your wealth is really just a series of doubling cycles. 7 years, double. Another 7 years, double again. Then again, and again. $10,000 becomes $20,000. $20,000 becomes $40,000. $40,000 becomes $80,000. Then $160,000. Then $320,000. The numbers start small, almost unimpressive at first. But doubling is powerful because it happens quietly. For years, the progress feels slow. Then suddenly, the numbers start accelerating. This is the hidden engine behind nearly every large fortune. Not constant effort, not perfect timing, just repeated doubling cycles happening quietly over long periods of time. And once you see money through the lens of doubling cycles, something else becomes painfully clear. The most valuable advantage in investing isn't intelligence. It's time. Because when you start early, you give your money more chances to double. And the difference between starting early and starting late can change everything. Let me show you what that looks like with 2 people. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. Let's imagine 2 people, Maya and Ethan. They both want to build wealth. They both earn decent incomes. And they both decide to invest in the same type of long-term portfolio earning about 10% per year. Remember the rule of 72. At 10%, money doubles roughly every 7.2 years. Now here's where their stories start to diverge. Maya starts investing when she's 24 years old. Nothing dramatic. She simply invests $250 per month into a broad stock market fund. She doesn't try to time the market. She doesn't chase trends. She just stays consistent. Month after month. Year after year. Now let's look at Ethan. Ethan also wants to build wealth. But he waits a little longer. He starts at 34 years old. To make up for lost time, he invests $450 per month. Almost double what Maya invests. So on the surface, Ethan looks like the more aggressive saver. He's putting away significantly more money. And for a while, it even feels like he's catching up. But remember something important. Wealth is built through doubling cycles. And Maya gave her money an extra decade to grow. Over the years, that difference compounds quietly. By the time they both reach age 65, something surprising happens. Maya ends up with around $600,000. Ethan ends up with roughly $360,000. Let that sink in. Ethan invested $200 more every single month. He contributed far more money overall. Yet Maya finishes with nearly $240,000 more. Why? Because she captured one extra decade of compounding. One extra decade where her money was quietly doubling. While Ethan was waiting, Maya's investments were already going through their first doubling cycle. Then their second. Then their third. And this is the strange truth about compounding. The early years look boring, almost invisible. But beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. Your money is building momentum. Quietly. Silently. And once that momentum starts, it becomes very difficult for late starters to catch up. Which leads to the next question most people eventually ask. If doubling cycles are the key to growing wealth, where should you actually put your money so it doubles faster? So if doubling cycles are the engine behind wealth, the next question becomes obvious. Where do those doubling cycles actually happen? Because not all money grows at the same speed. Some financial vehicles move slowly. Others move much faster. And the rule of 72 gives you a quick way to see the difference. Let's start with the most familiar place people keep their money. A traditional savings account. Many savings accounts pay around 1% interest. Some slightly more, many slightly less. Using the rule of 72, you divide 72 by 1. Your money doubles in 72 years. Think about that. If you save $20,000 today, it might not become $40,000 until you're retired or even older. Safe. Yes. Fast. Not even close. Now let's move one step up. Government bonds. Historically, long-term government bonds have averaged around 5% returns over time. Apply the rule of 72 again. 72 divided by 5. Your money doubles roughly every 14.4 years. That's already dramatically faster than a savings account. Now imagine your money doubling every 14 years instead of every 72. The difference over a lifetime becomes enormous. Next, consider real estate. Over long periods, residential real estate has averaged around 8% annual growth when you include appreciation and rent. Apply the rule of 72 again. 72 divided by 8. Your money doubles roughly every 9 years. 9 years. That means $50,000 becomes $100,000. Then $200,000. Then $400,000. The growth starts to feel very different. Now let's look at something even more powerful historically. The stock market. Specifically, broad index funds tracking the market like the well-known benchmark of the S&P 500. Over the past century, the average annual return has been around 10%. Now apply the rule of 72 again. 72 divided by 10. Your money doubles roughly every 7.2 years. 7 years. That means $10,000 becomes $20,000. Then $40,000. Then $80,000. Then $160,000. Then $320,000. Then $640,000. Not instantly, but quietly. Doubling cycle after doubling cycle. And of course, there are even more volatile assets. Things like Bitcoin, which have produced extraordinary returns during certain periods. But with that speed comes massive swings. Prices can rise quickly and fall just as quickly, which is why intelligent investors don't just chase the fastest doubling. They look for the most reliable doubling, because the real goal isn't excitement. The real goal is letting your money grow quietly and consistently over time. But even if you choose the right investments, even if your money is doubling regularly, there's still one force quietly working against you in the background. And most people underestimate how powerful it really is. Let's talk about the silent force that reshapes every financial plan. Inflation. Inflation is the gradual rise in prices over time. And historically, inflation averages around 3% per year. 3% might not sound like much, but remember something important. Compounding works both ways. Money compounds, but prices compound too, which means the real question isn't just how fast your money grows. It's how fast your money grows relative to inflation. Here's the moment where many people experience a small financial revelation. You think your money is growing at 6%, but the reality is it's growing at about 3% after inflation. You think your investment doubled in 12 years, but the reality is your purchasing power doubled much more slowly. You think you're moving forward, but the reality is the finish line is quietly moving too. And this is why slow growth strategies can be so dangerous. Because if your money grows at 3% and inflation is 3%, you're essentially standing still. Your balance may increase, but what that money can buy doesn't really change. It's like running on a treadmill. Your legs are moving, but you're not actually getting anywhere. This is why understanding doubling cycles matters so much. Because once you subtract inflation, the difference between investments becomes even more important. A 10% return isn't just 10%. It might be 7% after inflation. And that difference dramatically changes how many doubling cycles your money can experience over your lifetime. So now the question becomes practical. How do you actually apply this idea to your own money, starting today? Fortunately, the process is simpler than most people expect. So how do you turn this idea into something useful? How do you actually see how fast your money is growing? Fortunately, you can do a simple audit in less than 5 minutes. Right now, if you want, start by writing down the main places where your money currently lives. Your savings account, your retirement accounts, any investment funds you own. Just seeing the numbers in one place already tells a story. Next, estimate the average return for each one. Maybe your savings account earns 1%. Maybe a bond fund earns around 5%. Maybe your long-term stock investments aim for something closer to 8 to 10%. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal is clarity, not precision. Now apply the rule of 72. Take 72 and divide it by each return rate. Suddenly something interesting appears. You start seeing how long it takes for each pile of money to double. At 1%, your money doubles in 72 years. At 5%, it doubles in about 14 years. At 10%, it doubles in roughly 7 years. Now adjust for inflation. Remember that quiet 3% we talked about earlier. If an investment returns 8%, the real return might be closer to 5%, which means your purchasing power doubles closer to 14 years, not 9. This is the moment many people experience their first real financial clarity. You stop seeing money as static numbers. You start seeing it as future timelines. Every dollar you own is either doubling slowly or doubling faster. And once you see that pattern, something in your thinking changes. Because wealth isn't just about how much you save. It's about how many doubling cycles your money experiences over your lifetime. And that realization leads to a much deeper shift in perspective. Think about how a tree grows. When you first plant a seed, nothing dramatic happens. For weeks, sometimes months, the ground looks exactly the same. No branches, no shade, no towering trunk, just soil. But underneath the surface, something important is happening. Roots are spreading, quietly, silently, strengthening the foundation. Then one day a small shoot appears. And over the years that follow, that tiny beginning becomes something massive. Branches stretch outward, leaves multiply, and eventually the tree produces shade, fruit, and stability that lasts for decades. Wealth grows the same way. At first the numbers feel small. Your first few $1,000s. Your first doubling. Maybe from $5,000 to $10,000. Not life-changing. But every doubling strengthens the roots. Every cycle builds momentum. And over time, those quiet cycles transform small beginnings into something powerful. Real wealth rarely appears overnight. It grows quietly, cycle by cycle, season by season. Which brings us to one final challenge for you. So here's a simple challenge for you. Tonight, take 2 minutes and calculate how long it takes your money to double. Look at your savings. Look at your investments. Apply the rule of 72 and see the timeline clearly. Is your money doubling every 7 years, every 12 years, or every 70 years? Because once you see those timelines, something shifts. You stop thinking only about how much you save. You start thinking about how fast your money grows. And that one realization can quietly change every financial decision you make going forward. If this helped you see money differently, tap the like button and share your doubling number in the comments. I'm always curious to see where people are starting. And remember this, money can be earned back. Opportunities can come again. But the one asset you never get more of is time.